Hello, Tommy here. Know this channel's been mainly about scroll saw, and it will probably continue to be mainly about scroll saw, but I do other things. And I just wanted to start a video on this little project I've got going. What I've got here is a doll bed that I made. I made 3 of them. I gave one away, and the other 2 I hauled to flea markets for quite a while, and people were really interested in one of them, and nobody ever bought them. Anyway, my wife put photos of them on Facebook, and a local lady saw them, and she wanted to buy them. And then with further discussion found out that she needed a larger bed than what these are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lengthen this a few inches and widen it, and I'm going to make them stackable bunk beds. There's going to be 2 of them, identical, but they're going to stack, or you can use them separately. Anyway, so that's the original right there. And what I've got on my table here is I've glued up some blanks for the various parts. Now those 2 are going to be headboard, footboard, and that blank's going to be made into a headboard, footboard. And I've got 2 of these that are going to be made into the bed, the bottom of the bed. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to film this as I go and then do a voiceover, is I'm going to use my crosscut sled here to square up the ends of these boards, these blanks, and then cut them to length. And I'm going to draw the pattern on them, and I'm going to cut this section out with a scroll saw. She doesn't want any decoration in it. I made one of them very fancy, but she just wants a blank headboard, so I won't have any internal cuts on this. But anyway, that's the crux of this project, and I'm going to videotape and eventually put it together as kind of a little bonus video on my channel. And hope you learn something or enjoy watching it. And so I'll be back later with some of the cuts and the process as we go. Well, here we are. We're well into this project with these dowel beds. You can see this is one of the assembled dowel beds in the back here. This is the one that I'd already made. So just a few inches in dimensions makes quite a difference in the size and the scale of it. This one was made for a specific dowel for a customer. But what I've got to do now, these are going to be bunk beds, and they're going to stack on top of each other. And so what I'm going to do, I got these finials on this one. That's the smallest finial that I could find, but they're too large. What I'm going to do is I'm going to mount finials on top of each one of these. But what I'm going to do, I've already modified this one. You can see here that it's smaller. I'm trying to get it down to a ½ inch or a little smaller. So what I'm going to do is I don't have a lathe or anything, so I chuck these up in my drill, and I use I spin them with the drill and use a wood file to file them down in sandpaper. With filing and sandpaper, I get them down to where they're just smaller than this ½ inch. And then in the top of the bottom bed, I'm going to drill a ½ inch Forstner bit hole. And I might have to widen it a little bit, I don't know yet, because I'm going to paint these, and I got to allow for the paint on these finials to slide up in that hole. So I'm trying to make them slightly smaller than ½ inch and drill a ½ inch hole here. So then my problem will be making sure that they line up so that they stack properly. So my plan is to insert these finished ones in the hole that I drill, and then set it on top of the other bed and mark my spots so they'll be lined up. And I'm going to make a little bit larger hole than that so I'll have some wiggle room. And then I'll drill a little hole and try to glue them in while they're attached, while they're stuck up in the other bed, so they'll be aligned. But that's my plan right now, but I got to move forward with modifying these finials. So that's the next step. So now I've got the two beds assembled. My next step is I'm going to drill the bottom of the top bed for the bunk bed, and I'm going to drill a ½ inch hole so that this finial that I've modified will fit down in the hole. I've got the depth set here. I had to swing the head around on my drill press because the bed was too tall to work off of the platform of the drill press. So I've got it swiveled around on my work table here. I've centered, you see the lines there, I've centered the bottom of the legs, and I've used a scratch awl to make a point right where I want this Forstner bit to go in. I'm going to drill it a ½ inch at that depth, and then we'll see if that works, and we'll test it and see if the depth is correct. So here we go. See if our finial will fit in there, and it won't. I'm going to have to modify the finials a little more, which is doable, but we're real close. I'll just tack a little more off the finials, and then we'll test it again. Okay, so I've modified 4 finials. They slide in there nicely. Some of them are a little looser than others, but that's going to work. I want them to be a little bit loose, but not too loose. So those all seem to fit really well. So now I just got to drill the other 4 legs and put things together and see if they stack well, and then paint them. So for the next step, I've got the finials all modified to where they will fit down in the hole. I've got all the holes drilled. So what I've done, I've taken each finial, put a little bit of tape around it, a little bit of blue painter's tape, and stuck them down in the hole in the bottom of each one, as you can see there. Done it in all 4 of them. So what I'm going to do now, put that tape to hold it in place, plus kind of center it, and make sure I had enough room for one layer of paint, possibly. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this bed and set it up on top of the other bed like they're going to be stacked, so I can mark on the other bed where these will line up and where I can drill a hole for that to fit into. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'll get the other one up here and I'll set this one on top of it. Okay, now I've got the other bed on top of my workbench, and I'm going to take the bed with the finials in the bottom holes, and I'm going to line them up, put all 4 of them here like I'm going to stack them. Get them lined up, get each one lined up. You can see I've got those sides, and I've got those sides. They're all kind of in place. I'll go adjust each one so that it's in place where I can mark that. Then I'll go in and I'll mark the spot right there to drill the hole for that. Then when I do that, I will leave these finials in this piece and I'll glue them in place while stuck up in there so they'll line up once they're dried. So now you can see I've got each top post on this bottom bed marked. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill a hole just slightly bigger than what I need so that I have a little bit of wiggle room there, so that when I glue it in place, it'll be sure to be lined up. So that'll be the next step, figure out what size bed I want and drill that in there so I can mount it. So I've got all 4 holes drilled, and it looks like it's setting pretty good. It's setting up there. If I've got a little bit of wobble in the bed, I'll have to clamp some opposite corners. Looks like the humidity has changed. This board's trying to move a little bit on one of these, I think on this bed on the top. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue, take this off, put some glue on each of these 4, set it in place and clamp it down, let that glue set. And then with fingers crossed, this will slide right off these finials and we'll have it set. So I've got them in there, got some good glue spread on that. Looks like it squeezed it out real nicely. In fact, I had to wipe some of it off. So I've got a clamp on that end right there, and I've got some weights on this end, and it's all sitting pretty solid. And I'm going to let that glue set, and then we'll pull it, see if we can pull it apart and see what happens.